Go. Now, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Jacob right here on YouTube. And we got a great guest for you this week. I know I say that every week, but the truth is, every guest is great because they bring something different to the channel every week. And so every guest is great. As I've talked to about 100 people or close to 100 people, which is kind of still crazy to this day. But my guest today is Ken Holt. He's a musician. He's a pastor. He's the son of a Marine, and he's lived in 7 different states, and he finally settled in Jacksonville. Ken, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Jacob. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Oh, absolutely. Now, for people who don't know who you are, which I just gave a brief description, if you want to give a long description, then you can.
A long description. Well, probably let's be honest. Most people don't have any idea who I am. I mean, there are some. I got quite a few people in my family, and a few friends here and there. Well, who am I? I've been playing music, like a lot of musicians, I guess, since probably since high school. When you start, when you get into your first high school band, and for me, evidently it stuck, because here I am still playing music, and now I've played music in different formats in a variety of ways through the years. You mentioned being a pastor, and so but I've always played music in some fashion, regardless of what I was doing for money. And
Now, and what was it like being a son of a Marine?
Well, I I had friends whose dad, we usually lived on the base. We usually lived, we were stationed in a Marine Corps base somewhere, and I had friends whose dad would line them up every morning for inspection. You know, fortunately, that was not my father. That was not his style. So for me, it was it was my life. It was all I'd ever done. So I thought it was just fine. We lived here, and then for a year, and then he would get transferred to Alabama, and then we got transferred to Norfolk, Virginia, and we got transferred to Honolulu, Hawaii, and then Oceanside, California. We were all over the map. So you kind of get used to moving around, and making a few friends, and with the understanding that you're probably going to be saying goodbye to those friends within a year or two. It's not like lifelong buddies. So it was all good for me.
Now, with you living in 7 states, that kind of goes into my next question. Oh, is it hard
Yeah.
making friends and knowing that you wouldn't be there long?
Yeah. Well, if you were my therapist, and I can call you my therapist for today, my therapist would say, well, that's the reason that you don't invest yourself with people, because growing up you learned that you were going to have to say goodbye to them, and it's less painful if you don't really get to know people. It's easier to say see you later if you really haven't got to know them that well, if you're not that close with them. So maybe the relationships, not maybe, but the relationships can be, less deep, because you just don't, I just didn't probably invest in myself. I didn't know that was going on as a kid. You just live, it's your life. You don't really analyze it, when you're 10 years old. But I think that's probably the reason that the whole musician thing has worked for me, and even being a pastor. You're a pastor at a church for 2 years, and then then you move on to the next church for 3 years, the next church for 5 years, and hey, that's nothing unusual about that. I've been doing that my whole life. Got my suitcase right over here, all packed.
Now, and who is your music influence that gets you started in kind of started in the career that you're in now?
Uh, well, this may sound like kind of a vague answer, but I would say for me, truthfully, I think of it this way. Everything that I've been kind of listening to my whole life, and all those artists. Uh, that I've appreciated over the years. I mean, every single one of them, to some degree, has had an impact on the kind of music that I write now. I mean, some of my songs have a little mandolin in them. And some of my songs have dual guitars in them, with harmony parts. That little Allman brother kind of thing on the harmony parts, and some of them are kind of acoustic strumming kind of things. They got a little country flavor, and if I want to put keyboards and Hammond B3 or whatever, I mean, kind of whatever the song calls for, and I think that's. And I think that's because, all the music I've listened to over the course of my life, what kind of seeps in, seeps out, when you go to put your own stuff together.
Now, what you do on what we call Americana music,
Right.
for people who don't know what that is, and how would you describe that?
Americana music, yeah. Americana music, I think is a relatively a new term. I think they had to come up with a new genre because there was so much music, including my own, that didn't really fit neatly into all the other categories. It wasn't pop country, it wasn't pop radio, it wasn't jazz, straight jazz. It wasn't one thing or the other. But it was kind of influenced by all those things, perhaps. And so I mean, this is just my observation anyway. So it's, hey, well, let's call it Americana. It's got a little bit of everything in it, and I think that reflects my music. If you listen to my record, it's really it's difficult to kind of pigeonhole it and say, I know what that is. Well, it's that, but you listen to this next song, you might think something differently.
Now you was in a band called the New England Band.
I was in a band that was based out of New
Yeah,
England.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, same difference. Yeah, yeah. For quite a few years, based out of New England. I don't know. Have you ever been to Maine?
I have not, no.
Well, you might ought to give it a try sometime, Jacob. It's pretty, and there's a lot of little towns with under 1,000 people. There's probably a lot of towns with less than 100 people in them. I mean, you would, you know. So what was the question?
The question was about the band that you was in New England.
Yeah, we were based out of New England, and we were based started out in Maine was the reason I was going on about Maine, and we played in Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont and Massachusetts and Rhode Island, Connecticut, all those kind of New England states, and that was where our bread and butter was. The name of the band was The Blend, and we were very popular in that region. That was our region. And we did a couple albums. We were signed with MCA for a couple of years and did two albums with them, and did some tours, and played with a lot of different people, and just had a really fun, memorable taste of the whole, being on the road and all of that. So
Now,
it was all good.
now, did you ever think and that you would be doing and what you did you ever think growing up and that this was what you would be doing today?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Some people say, "Gee, when I was 5 years old, I had a vision, and I knew I had to be a whatever." I don't know. I mean, I mean, I'm sure you do many things, but today you're a podcaster. I mean, was that in the cards for you when you were a kid? Did you think about that? I don't know. I wasn't, thinking about, making records and playing in bands and that sort of thing when I was a child. It's just, you just make choices, as as we all do. Make choices along the way, and sometimes those choices can really have a long lasting impact on your life. And pretty soon you're going in this direction, and then you just keep going, because it's it feels right. I mean, for me, if I wasn't playing music, I really don't know what else I would be doing. I mean, I have worked in the church a lot, and professionally, and I've spent a lot of years there. And but even there, I was still playing. Like I said earlier, I was still strumming on a guitar.
Now, speaking of church, which you've been serving as a pastor and youth minister for 20 years.
Yeah.
And and when did you decided that you wanted to be a pastor and a youth minister?
Well, I think it was. Well, it was after all those years that we were talking about, playing in the band in New England and touring and all of that, and all that was wonderful. I wouldn't trade a day of that. Well, maybe I'd trade a few days of that, but overall, it was all wonderful. So that was all. I did that, and it's just people talk about, you come to those crossroad points, and you say, gee, I have to make a decision if I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It's time for a change. You're not quite sure what it was, what it's going to be, but something different perhaps is in store. Well, I had a pastor friend. She was a she. Joyce Rhymes, her name was, in the Presbyterian church, and she said, you just spent, you know, 15 years or whatever, being on a stage up there playing the guitar, and and learning a few things about, how to relate to people, and and you try to connect with people, right? When you're on the stage, that's your job. You want to connect, and you want to. And so she said, so maybe you could use some of those kind of skills, if you want to call them that you've learned, maybe use them in the church, And so I said, well, maybe doing youth ministry, working with middle school, junior high, senior high kids, and would be fun. Would be fun, and also would be clearly would be a way to express my faith, and utilize, try to do something that's constructive and meaningful, and so I did that, and I went into youth ministry and did that for quite a few years, and then eventually went back and got another degree. I got 2 master's degrees. I spent a lot of time in school, and then I went back and got another degree in pastoral ministry, and then I served as pastor in several churches. So, but even then, Jacob, I'd be preaching, and the pulpit, and I'd have my guitar on a guitar stand right next to the pulpit, and if I thought a song, I would plan this ahead of time. It wasn't spontaneous necessarily, but if I thought there was a song that would fit, the message, what I was trying to communicate that day, I wouldn't hesitate to pull out my guitar and just use that song in the course of the sermon, and some people thought that was really cool, and I'm sure some people thought some other things too, but for me, it was who I am, it's you use what you use your, whatever you bring to the table, that's what you've got to use, and so it worked for me, and so the church was really a wonderful experience. And I've got friends now in just about every church I served in. I've got at least a few people that I'm still friends with. Some of the kids that were in my youth group, they're, they were 10 years old when I was responsible for them, and now they're grown up adults, and they're, and I still talk, and some of them I still communicate with and talk with, and it's just really nice.
Now, 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 do you write your own songs? If so, if so, and what is the process like?
Um, well, I would say usually for me it starts with an idea, you know, or someone will say something, someone will throw out a line in a conversation, you know. Like I was talking with one of my friends. I have no idea what we were talking about, and somewhere in the course of that conversation, he said, "Well, you don't have to stand." I don't know what we were talking about. I couldn't tell you, but I said, "You don't have to stand." So I went home and wrote that down. But there's a song on my new album called "You Don't Have to Stand." So I don't know. I don't know if I actually make any money off this record. I don't know if I owe my friend some money or not for the title of the song. I'm not going to tell him. Well, he knows actually. But so it usually starts with an idea or just a line, that somebody says offhand. I mean, maybe you'll say something today, Jacob, and I go, God dang, man, I'm gonna write that down. Song by Ken and Jacob, writer's credit.
Now, now, speaking of your new album, what, speaking of your new album, and what can people expect to listen on it, or what can they expect, like to take away from it, or where, what, well, in general, the question is, can you tell us about your new album?
Yeah. Well, it's a record that I recorded for the most part in my home studio. I have you know a pretty decent recording studio here in my house. It's a lot of people have home studios now, and I do, and so I recorded a good part of it there. Um, and I decided to, and I had a lot of songs, on my hard drive in there. I said, I need to pick out 10, 11, 12 of these songs and put them out on an album. Otherwise, what's going to happen? They sit on your hard drive forever. So I picked out 11 songs, and they are in that, kind of what we were talking about earlier, that kind of Americana vein, but yet they all do kind of fit together, and which, even though one song wasn't written one day and then another song was written the next day, they were written kind of over a period of time, but they still all kind of connect, and I think that's and I would like to think, as I think about it now, and that's because they fit together, because they come from me, and I try to be honest and authentic, and I try to communicate some kind of message, or have something to say in the song. And I think all of those songs, if on the record, if you listen to them, you go, oh yeah, yeah. I know what he's talking about. I've been there myself, or I've thought that myself. So I think it's kind of real life stuff from me. I'm not just making stuff up just to make a record. I'm not going to write a song, God bless pickup trucks, but I'm not going to write another song about a pickup truck, or whatever. Um, so, I think they'll find very authentic, honest music, and when they listen to the words, I think they hopefully people will find some connection points. You go, yeah, I get that.
So there's songs on there.
Yeah,
So it's songs on your album that people can relate to.
I think so. I think so. Yeah. And overall, I think I try to be. I say I think I know that I try to be hopeful, and maybe that word is overused. I don't know. But I try to be hopeful and positive. You know, I figure I think that that's something that I can bring to the table. You know, everybody brings something different. You know,
Oh yeah.
everybody sees the world in a different way and has a different life experience. But I think trying to be hopeful and positive and I don't want to overstate it, but I'll say uplifting in some way. Um, I try to do that. The first single on the album, we're talking about the album, is a song called "Shine," and one of the lines in the song says, "When I'm flat on my back and I can't do one thing, excuse me, the light will return and shine on me." Whatever the light means to you, it's a way of saying, I'm not going to stay down in this valley forever. I know eventually I'm going to crawl out of this valley and I'm going to get higher up. It's going to be a mountaintop up there somewhere waiting for me. This valley is not the end of it for me. So try to be hopeful and Shine has done amazingly well. I mean, Shine is I don't have all the numbers and stuff in front of me, but Shine is in like the top 10 of the independent music charts in the country category, and I think it might have been in the Americana category there for a while. There's a and it was on the Cashbox magazine charts, and there were several other charts that had made it onto. It's still it's been out for a couple of months now, but it's still creeping around, getting some airplay. Um,
So would you say that that's been your most successful song so far?
well, it off of this album, it definitely got the album started, and now there's a second single now called "I Did Not Know." And I did not know, and I say this very humbly, but I did not know has got some amazing reviews. I mean, I read the reviews and I go, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, they're really good, you know. And I think I did not know is like a couple of days ago was like number 3 on the independent
Wow.
music charts, you know. So I mean, it really has been. Uh, a wonderful surprise and gift to me, that this music is actually getting out there. I mean, it's and I got a readout the other day. It's being played in like I don't know 15 or so countries around the world. These songs, going me. That's right. So anyway, uh, the album has. It was, it's been uplifting for me. Let's talk about uplifting and
Uh,
hopeful.
Now, when you see the numbers of your songs being played, and you see all these numbers, top 3, I think you said, and what is that reaction like deep down? Are you shocked? Are you surprised? Or what is your reaction?
So yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm I'm I use the word amazed a lot, amazed, because yeah, well, how many bands are out there? How many artists are out there? And you know, and to be on anybody's chart in the midst of all the music that's being released every day, surely is is really a wonderful affirmation to me. I mean, it makes me feel great, and and people around me say that's amazing. I mean, one of my son-in-law said that's astonishing. I said astonishing. Well, you're surprised. But it really has taken a lot of people by surprise, including myself.
Yeah,
Um,
because and there's a lot of bands out there, but somehow somehow, and you're like number 3, and it could have been any other band, but it's you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, usually it's I have a wonderful management relationship with MTS Management and Promotion Company. You know, I think MTS is responsible for getting us
Oh
connected.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
and Michael is from MTS. I mean that's his business. You know, he knows how to do that stuff. I don't know how to do that stuff. You know, I can record a song, but don't ask me to get it played in France. It's not going to happen if it's my responsibility. It's not, but Michael, a management company, a promotion company, they have the ability to do those kinds of things to open some doors. And so it's been really nice working with him.
So where can people get your new album at?
Well, I have a website, which is a good place to get the music, and the website's easy to find if you can remember my name. It's Ken Holt, that's Holt, Ken Holt Music, pretty straight, huh? KenHoltMusic.com, and you can go on my website, and you can read about how I lived in 7 states and all of that, And but all the music is on there, and one of the fun things about this album for me is I produced it in vinyl. I decided I wanted to do vinyl. I mean, I personally don't buy CDs anymore. I go to a show, I go to a festival, I'm looking at vinyl. And a lot of artists are doing vinyl now. So I got my turntable over here, got all dusted off, man, and I love playing that thing. So if someone wants to pick up my record in vinyl, or I also have you can get it digitally, digital downloads and all the other kinds of ways, but all that's available to answer your question on my website, kenholtmusic.com. And I encourage folks to go on there and look around, read through the stuff, listen to a few songs, and pick up something. And if you want a vinyl album, I personally will send it right to you.
Now, now as you mentioned about the CDs and vinyls, it seemed like vinyls were making a comeback.
Yeah.
Oh, it's I know I got a few vinyls behind me. Oh, I got a record player over there, and it seems there's more vinyls now than it is CDs.
I think so. I mean that's my observation too. I mean most of the people that I know I suppose are not buying vinyl. I mean, are not buying CDs. They're not buying CDs. And there's 2 or 3 record stores that have popped up where I am here in Melbourne, Florida. Where that's all it is vinyl. And so it's definitely making a resurgence, and you can tell when you go to festivals and you go to the merch table, and you start to see more, T-shirts and vinyl, and bumper stickers and all the rest of it too, of course. But
Now after your latest album, and what's next for you?
well, the album has been out. It came out about the middle of January. So I'm going to be in the process of promoting this album. Probably at least you know for the next year. I wouldn't surprise me a bit. I mean, it's a big world out there, right? and and uh, and honestly, my name is not at the top of everybody's list. So I mean, the sky's the limit. So I'm going to be promoting this album. I have I'm playing with a trio right now, and I'm playing acoustic guitar, and we have a woman, Marcy Brenner, who plays mandolin and sings harmony with me, and then have a good bass player, Brad Swartzide, who plays bass as well as sings. So the three of us are working out acoustic versions of the album songs, because the album songs, we got drums, bass, Hammond B3, dual guitars, we got the whole bit. So now we're boiling it down, So we're doing dates around Central Florida, the three of us, and promoting the record. I mean, we got plenty of music to play. We just rehearsed today, as a matter of fact. We rehearse a couple days a week, but there's lots of music to be played. So I'm going to be in that promotion phase, and also I'm still writing songs. I mean, I was working on a song last night. I mean, I'll always be writing songs. So, um, you know, maybe within the next year, I'll have another album out. I mean, why not, right?
Now, would you like to tour? Would you like to go on tour like kind of like overseas, or do like a United States tour?
Do either to tell you the truth. I mean, and you said overseas. I mean, and it's funny you said that because I started thinking about that because I've got this list here that this of the radio stations that are playing the record. Here's one in Germany, France. There's three stations in the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Malta, France, UK, Denmark, Austria, you know, the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, you know. Hey man, let's do a European tour. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen, but if someone were able to put the pieces of that puzzle together, I'd go in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
Wouldn't that be wouldn't that be fun?
oh yeah. It seems like you're very popular over there, I guess.
Evidently I am, I mean, I think I'm more popular in Europe than I am in the United States, I mean, I know there's a station out in Wisconsin that the disc jockey says, "Man, we put you on regular rotation. We love your music in this town." I went, "Really? That's great, Wisconsin." So I may have to go to Wisconsin before I go to Germany and France, but I'll go there.
Now, and where do you see yourself in the future? Do you see yourself um uh, do you see yourself still doing what you're doing now, or do you think you probably see yourself in the future maybe retiring?
I don't think I'll ever retire. I mean, I think I was saying talking with a friend of mine who's yeah. Anyway, who's a musician. I think I will do it as long as I'm able to do it. You know, I mean, what am I going to do? Sit in the lazy boy and watch Netflix? I don't think so. I mean, so as long as I'm able to do it, no, I'm gonna keep on doing it. I don't, how old is Willie Nelson? 92?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's he gonna do? Sit on the couch and watch Netflix? No, you just keep on doing it. I mean, what's the alternative? So
Now I seen on your bio, I don't know if it was with the band you was with or just you, but you open up for the Who, ZZ Top, and Charlie Daniels, and so much more. And
yeah.
the and the question is, and what was that like?
Well, it was well, as you can well imagine, Jacob, it was pretty exciting. I mean, um, you know, that was with the band that I was playing with in New England. That we were talking about earlier, and we had a couple albums with MCA, so we were supporting that record. So those records. So we had a lot of opening opportunities, opening slots, and I mean, we played with the Who. I mean, my goodness gracious. I mean, who wouldn't be excited about that, 30,000 people or however many there were, so great fun. ZZ Top was the same way. I mean, they're, uh, big band, big sound. And people like Charlie Daniels. Who was, I mean, this was kind of in that when Southern rock was really, Leonard Skinner and Charlie Daniels and the Marshall Tucker Band and all those kinds of, Southern, quote unquote, Southern bands were really hot. and so we were able to connect with some of those bands and did quite a few shows with Charlie. Just the nicest, most laid back, kind of unpretentious guy. You guys are, you check on you guys okay? You got everything you need? You get your sound check? Everything all right? Yeah, everything's fine. Okay, I mean, he knew, we're the opening act. He was taking care of us. So it was just nice. It was just nice, and then I remember another act that will remain nameless. That we were playing, and we were just we were rocking. It was like our last song, and it was and this happened to be at a university up in New England, kind of our territory. So everybody was really into it. Nah, 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 nah. Well, the manager of this headliner who I won't name pulled the plug on us. Said, okay. He felt like, we were getting too much attention, I guess. We were being too well received. So uh I mean, he could have seen that as a gift. Wow, these guys are really warming up the crowd for my boys. But he felt, I don't know how he felt. Maybe he felt threatened by that. So there's that side of the music business, and then there's Charlie Daniels. You guys okay? You got everything you need? He even gave us one. He gave us like a whole suite of rooms at some hotel one time. Here, we're just going to drive on to the next game. Why don't you guys just take the floor? Okay, you know. So you meet, people are people. I don't care what, but it was great fun. It was great fun.
Now, and where can people find you on the internet besides your website?
Well, the website I have a Facebook page, doesn't everybody? I guess. Ken Holt, you can find me Ken Holt, and I post all that stuff, about here it's number 3 on this chart. I post all the charting stuff and if someone like yourself maybe gives me, sends me a link to a podcast, now I'll post that, and the magazine reviews and all. So, I put it out there so, people have an opportunity to check that stuff out. So Ken Holt, I mean, the music is on all the streaming services. Ken Holt on Spotify, Apple Music. There's over 100 streaming services, and out there, and I think I'm on most of them, if not all of them. So it's easy to find me. If you can remember my name, you should be able to find me somewhere. And I hope the folks do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And by the way, when this airs, I'll put your website down in the description as well for people to go and check out.
Beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Ken, which I had a great time chatting with you, which I didn't ask all my questions of, but I had a good time chatting with you today.
Well, I did too, Jacob. I appreciate giving me a shot and having a conversation, and I hope those 1,000 people in your town are listening, and gonna enjoy what they hear.
But anyway, it's been a pleasure once again. Thank you for coming on to talk about your career, which I enjoyed. Maybe the people who watch and also enjoyed it as well.
Beautiful, beautiful.
All right, that wraps up today. Tune in next week for another episode. Until then, God bless, and I'll catch you guys next week.